"Sir, you can't stay here. This is private property. Wake up!" the security guard shouted, jabbing the elderly man roughly with his nightstick. When the man, roused from a deep and troubled sleep, didn't respond quickly enough, the guard drew his taser. "I warned you." A sudden flash and a sharp crackle followed, and the veteran's body convulsed on the cold pavement. 7 minutes later, as the guard arrogantly scribbled in his incident log, 2 black government-plated vehicles screeched to a halt. Men in tactical gear, their uniforms marked with insignias from a Pentagon rapid response unit, poured out. If you believe no person, especially a veteran, should ever be met with violence for seeking shelter, type "never forgotten" below. Elijah Eli Caney, age 74, bore the invisible weight of past battles. His nights were restless, haunted by fragmentary memories of jungle patrols and the ghosts of fallen comrades from a war long past. He was homeless, not by design but by a cruel sequence of events. His late wife's overwhelming medical expenses had drained his limited savings, and he cycled through low-wage jobs that vanished with age and his worsening PTSD. He'd found a relatively sheltered corner behind a downtown department store, Prestige Imports, a spot typically ignored by late-night patrols. There, he could roll out his thin bedroll and try to catch a few hours of escape from both the city's relentless noise and his own internal storms. His few possessions were crammed into a battered rucksack: a worn Bible, a couple pairs of socks, a tin cup, and, carefully wrapped in oilcloth, his discharge papers and the bronze star he had earned but never mentioned. He dozed into a troubled sleep, where time blurred and names long lost were murmured under his breath. He didn't hear Officer Miller's approach. Officer Miller, the night security guard for Prestige Imports, was young, restless, and possessed an inflated sense of authority. He didn't see the homeless as people in need, but as obstacles, blights on the clean image of his employer's luxury storefront. At 3 a.m. during his patrol, spotting Eli curled up in the alcove, he didn't see an elderly, vulnerable veteran, only a trespasser, an eyesore. His boots stomped toward the old man, loud on the pavement. "Hey, you! Wake up!" he barked, jabbing Eli in the ribs with the end of his heavy flashlight. Eli jolted awake, disoriented, his heart racing in panic. For a terrifying instant, he thought he was back in combat. What is it?" he mumbled, still caught in the fog of trauma and sleep. "This is private property, old man," Miller snapped, relishing Eli's confusion. "No sleep in here. I've told you vagrants before. Pack your junk and get out." Eli tried to gather his thoughts. "I'm just trying to rest, not bothering anyone." "You're bothering the image of this place," Miller retorted, puffing up his chest. "And you're not moving fast enough." He unclipped the taser, its black plastic casing stark in the dim light. Eli's eyes widened. He'd seen tasers used. He knew their pain. "Please. No need for that. I'm going. Just give me a second." But Miller wasn't listening. "You had your warning, vagrant." As Eli tried to stand, clutching his rucksack, Miller fired. The taser's barbs hit Eli's chest. Electricity surged through his body. He screamed, muscles seizing, then collapsed back onto the pavement, writhing. Miller watched with a smirk. "Maybe next time you'll listen," he muttered, casually retrieving his logbook to fabricate a story. Subject was non-compliant, potentially aggressive, resisted removal. He didn't bother checking Eli's condition. What Miller didn't know was that Eli Caney, despite everything, wasn't completely forgotten. Years earlier, after a severe PTSD episode had landed him briefly in a VA psychiatric center, a caring social worker had enrolled him in a pilot program for high-risk veterans. One feature was a disguised emergency beacon, appearing like a regular keychain fob. Designed for use only in critical emergencies, violence, medical collapse, it silently transmitted a distress signal to a secure Pentagon operations unit, the Veteran Immediate Safeguard and Tactical Oversight, VISTTO team. When the taser hit, Eli's convulsing hand reflexively clenched around the fob in his pocket, pressing the recessed button. The signal, undetectable to Miller, reached a classified monitoring station. Eli's file, flagged as high risk due to his distinguished but classified service, triggered an automatic Level 1 priority alert. Within 60 seconds, GPS data, live traffic cam footage, and tactical data had deployed the nearest standby Visto team, already in the area conducting an urban training drill. Miller, smugly completing his report, didn't notice the first black SUV screeching into the alley. Its headlights pierced the dark. Then a second vehicle arrived, cutting off the other end. Doors slammed. 4 figures in tactical gear emerged, unmarked, yet unmistakably elite. Their silent coordination and presence froze Miller in place. "Hey, this is private property. Identify yourselves," he blustered. The team leader, a tall man with piercing eyes, ignored him. He scanned the alley. "Target acquired. Code Nightingale," he whispered into his headset. "Medical assist needed." 2 operatives went to Eli immediately. One, a medic, cut the taser wires, assessed vitals, and began emergency care. The leader turned to Miller, voice cool and measured. "You're Officer Miller. Private security? Prestige imports?" "Yeah. And this vagrant was trespassing. I had to use force. He was resisting." A pause. "Necessary force? On a sleeping elderly man? You used a CEW directly to his chest?" He stepped forward. "We have satellite thermal, Officer Miller. We saw everything." Miller's confidence drained. He wouldn't leave. He was non-compliant. The medic interrupted. "Subject disoriented. Tachycardic. Muscle spasms from taser deployment. Elderly. Malnourished. This was excessive by any standard." The leader nodded. "Officer Miller, remain here. Do not touch your devices. Representatives from the Department of Defense, the Department of Veterans Affairs, and local law enforcement will question you about aggravated assault on a federally protected veteran." Miller paled. "Federally protected? Department of Defense?" This was far beyond a trespassing incident. As Eli was stabilized and loaded into a discreet, unmarked ambulance, the team leader, call sign Wraith, spoke into a sat phone. "Wraith to Watchtower, Nightingale secure. Stable but needs level 2 medical. Perpetrator detained, request full liaison. DoD legal, VA protective, local law enforcement. Initiate asset reclamation for Sergeant Elijah Caney. Serial number." Asset reclamation, rarely triggered, was now fully in motion. As Miller stood silently, a third vehicle arrived, a sleek, unmarked ambulance. Eli, now semi-conscious, was carefully loaded inside. Wraith leaned close. "Sergeant Caney, you're safe now. We're taking you to proper care. You're not alone anymore." Eli's eyes slowly focused. There was something grounding in the man's voice. He gave a faint nod. Wraith then turned to Miller, whose equipment had already been seized by 2 operatives now questioning him in detail. "Your report," Wraith said, picking up the logbook, "omitted some important facts. We'll make sure they're included." Just then, the first members of the liaison package arrived. A stern VA Inspector General official and 2 visibly annoyed city detectives, summoned at 3 a.m. The night only got worse for Miller and for Prestige Imports. The fallout came swiftly. The company faced a VA lawsuit and a civil rights probe from the DOJ. Their security contract was terminated. Their stock plummeted after a leak to a financial journalist revealed they had mistreated a highly decorated veteran. Eli Caney recovered slowly at a secure military hospital. He was diagnosed with severe PTSD, malnutrition, and complications from the taser, but his resilience, the same that had carried him through war, began to resurface. Visto made good on their promise. Within days, Eli was placed in a clean, safe apartment for retired military personnel. His full pension and disability were reinstated and expedited. A VA case manager handled his ongoing care. He was even matched with a calm German Shepherd service dog named Echo. Wraith visited him once before the team stood down. "Sergeant Major?" he greeted him. Eli had been posthumously promoted after being declared MIA years earlier. "Your country failed you. We're here to make it right. You were never forgotten, even if it seemed like it." Eli, seated peacefully and looking out at a small garden, nodded. Decades of pain lingered in his eyes, but now, for the first time in years, also peace. He knew his story was extraordinary, a rare convergence of forgotten protocols and desperate action, but within certain corridors of power, it was a sharp reminder. The nation's obligation to its defenders doesn't end when the uniform comes off. Sometimes justice isn't loud. Sometimes it arrives swiftly and silently, because even the faintest distress signal can be heard. And for some, the cavalry still comes. Subscribe to Hidden Sparks if you believe every veteran deserves dignity, support, and a rapid response when they're in need.